Hi everyone, welcome back to Wellness Tank. And today we have a very important guest in our studio. Her name is Miss Kritika Padmanabhan. So, Miss Kritika is a psychologist, and today our topic of discussion is very interesting because we're going to discuss on corporate wellness and the kind of diseases that people are suffering because of the work environment is alarming numbers. And we're going to have this discussion how we can find a better way to lead a better life, especially in a work environment where stress is the major cause for all that is there. So, welcome to the show, Kritika.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
Yeah, so just a quick background about what field do you come from and why was that interest in this particular field of psychology for you?
So, I pursued my master's in industrial, or as you call it, organizational psychology. It's also called as corporate psychology these days. I took interest into this because I really was very passionate about understanding people, understanding employee behavior, and basically motivation. So trainings was what I was interested in, and counseling. When I did my internships in my post-graduation also, I focused a lot on stress as a topic, interestingly, and that's what we are discussing today.
Was it that itself a stress to take up stress as a topic?
I would say yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So today, if you look at it, the world, the corporate world has changed, and everybody is now glued out to a computer or on their phones because phones have become an office. And the stress at work has really gone bad.
I have pulled out some statistics which I would really like to discuss here. Psychology cannot go without, measuring behavior. And we try to do that as much as possible, be it through psychometric tests, be it through statistical analysis. And interestingly, what the WHO has found out, 1 in every 4 employees is stressed.
1 in 4.
1 in 4. Can you imagine the number?
That's almost 25% of the working population.
Absolutely. So I think in this place itself, if there are around 8 of us, 2 of us are surely stressed.
And this stress can be detrimental to the real health, right?
Absolutely. They also found out that there is this feeling of thriving. Thriving means what? Just surviving. So what they found out was 14% of the employees felt that they are just thriving. That's also okay and understandable. But can you imagine the alarming number? 86 people felt that they are suffering. Can you feel the difference?
Because this 84% is basically they're just coming there to do a job for their survival.
Correct.
And at the bottom line, it's the money that they come here for.
Yes.
And they're ready to give everything and anything for just surviving, isn't it?
But at what cost?
Yeah, and then it costs them their health, which itself is an alarming number. When you see, I think the kind of people, even in my clinical practice, people come with simple complaints like acidity, the heartburn, mental conditions like anxiety and pain has become normal. And people are trying to find ways and means in which they are, like self-medicating or finding self-therapy for themselves. And one of the way they do that is by addiction.
Yes.
And would you agree to the point that in the corporate world, addiction is a major challenge that we are facing?
It is. In fact, I would like to give one more statistic for this. So, most of the people here are feeling anxiety or stress. Yes, 55% of the people or employees have reported that though they do feel stress and anxiety, they are not able to come up and speak about it. So, what do? They take to substance abuse. So it becomes one of the roadmap,
I have some questions for you. Okay?
Sure.
So how does workplace stress impact employee mental health and overall productivity?
So here, let's split this question into 2 so that it becomes easier for all of us to understand. Firstly, how is it going to impact your mental health? And then in turn, how is it going to affect your productivity? So in India itself, let me tell you now, I think every one of us should open our eyes. 60 to 80% of employees are already feeling stressed. And what I mean by stress is a mental strain because of some external event. Now, this stress could lead to detrimental health effects, like for example, obesity, heart problems, you have BP issues, you have cholesterol issues, you have backaches, you have stomach ulcers.
Is that what the stress is doing, or is it because of stress where the choices that they are making in lifestyle?
It could be both.
It could be both.
It could be both, because when you talk about stress, here we are talking about the cortisol levels. Here we are also talking about the excessive activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Talking to a doctor, I also do come from this background that we did study this in detail. So you would agree with me that when there is too much of activity in your body is going to find a mechanism to slow it down, and then it tries to find ways. I'm not talking about the choices that we make. I'm talking about the choice that your body has to inevitably make. And then secondly comes the point which you discussed about the choices that you make. Ill habits, your habit patterns of negative thinking, and then also it gets reflected into the workplace. Like for example, an employee is going to repeatedly come late to work because of his health issues. Now, why did he choose to sit up late in the night rather than going off to sleep? Maybe he was just brooding or thinking over what is going wrong in my workplace. It's a choice which he made, which you mentioned some time back. So I would totally 101% agree with you that the choices that a person makes is going to actually decide whether your health is going to be good or your health is going to worsen, or as we name it, the corporate illness.
Yeah,
which we are leading into.
Yeah, I think that's the term that is being now coined. The whole thing of corporate, culture now leading into your physical illnesses. And I think the health insurance companies are now really taking a big bite from this. Every corporate is getting their employees insured, and every employee wants an insurance for himself, because health is become a major concern for everybody. And post-COVID, I think the challenges are very, very serious.
That's
right?
true.
And so my next question was, how are these conditions affecting the productivity of an organization?
Right. Very important question. Now, how do we measure productivity? That would be the first question. In every organization or in every company, there are different ways in which the employee productivity is actually measured. That is why deadlines are set. That is why there are quarterly goals or appraisals which the company repeatedly undergoes, Why? Because they really want to know how much is the employee actually performing, whether he is actually following his job role, and whether he is doing justice to the organization. An interesting part over here is, how does stress affect productivity? Like we discussed some time back, yes, it does affect your health. In fact, almost 50 to 60% of employees in the workplace, now this was, done by various surveys and researches, they found that the alarming rate was 50 to 60%. They actually started reporting signs of depression. Now, all of this was leading to lack in employee morale, lack in employee motivation, less job engagement, and ultimately less productivity.
So when you're talking about less productivity, and there are reasons behind this, and stress, because what kind of stress you're saying is a workplace stress, but there is a eustress also, the good stress that you carry along and you perform better. Then there is a kind of a distress at workplace, puts you down and you feel, so what the organization has to look into this. Is the organization delivering through its system kind of a distress element down, so that everybody is working in the panic mode? Or we're creating a kind of a eustress environment where they are taking out the maximum from there?
I totally agree with this theory. In fact, the graph that is used for this is the inverted U. So when there is less stress, productivity might also be less, because you're hardly bothered about deadlines. You're hardly bothered whether you're punctual, whether your work is up to mark. But when the manager or your superior, for example, is going to set a deadline, or is going to set a particular expectation, there is something called as eustress, because you might feel that, okay, I can do this. But again, there is some amount of stress associated. It was found that, as I said, the inverted U, so basically the productivity was maximum. But again, there is a catch. There is a very thin line between eustress and distress. You would agree with me on that.
Yes.
If there is too much of stress put on you, too much of overload of work, too much of job demands, too much of dynamics at the workplace, then the stress goes beyond a particular period and time which you cannot bear. And that's when your productivity falls down.
But then there would be some employees that can handle that stress and some who cannot, right?
That depends on the resiliency
Yeah.
of the employee.
So at the end, what kind of stress somebody is going through or what kind of lifestyle somebody is choosing is going to be the factor in which how is he going to survive in a environment. In corporate world is not easy because it comes with a lot of politics also. We call it the corporate politics.
Correct.
And many people, it becomes so difficult for them to survive that corporate politics. But you have no other option but that you have to. This world, especially the corporate world, is ruthless at times.
Absolutely.
And one has to survive that.
Yes.
And so, as a psychologist, have you come across people suffering from, these corporate illnesses as such? And what kind of the common illnesses that you see in people?
So one of the most common, as I mentioned sometime back, was depression. They had found out that quite a lot of employees reported feeling depressed. But again, as I said, that there is a stigma and people feel that I cannot go up and open about this because people might judge me. If I'm reporting signs and symptoms of depression, I should actually go and talk it out. But then they don't feel like talking it out. That's why the reported number would be lesser than the actual. The second most common was anxiety. So anxiety could also lead to be it other host of other issues, like be it the anxiety or panic attacks leading to anxiety disorder. There are other personality disorders also, and then the mood disorders. Under the mood disorders, we also have not just depression, but something, it's a condition called as mania, where you might see an employee who is being very productive at some point, but at some other points, he's just very low. So bipolar. So those kinds of illnesses. Now, these incidences are rising so much in the corporate world. Everybody is aware of this. In fact, there was a recent survey by LinkedIn in around 2023. What they found was in India, the mental health awareness has actually increased a lot. But the stigma associated with it remains the same.
I think that stigma still continues. If you even have a mental issue and you want to tell that, or seek help, you don't want to go to a psychiatrist. You don't want to ask a psychologist to analyze you. And you don't want to go through therapy because you feel, what will the world think around you? And I think in the corporate world, if somebody is even talked about having some kind of mental issue, I think people will start ignoring him, and start being away from him. So that is one of the reasons they never share these things.
Yes, because what is one of the triggers to all these hosts of disorders, be it or all the stress-related issues, is isolation. So if you're already feeling isolated, how much insecure you will get when people give you that kind of treatment? So it's going to worsen the situation. The employee might develop a lack of self-worth, he might develop low self-esteem and learned helplessness. So depression is also called as learned helplessness. You feel like you don't have any control over the situation. You don't have any control over your life. So this is what it may lead to. So what should be included in awareness is not just the signs and symptoms, but what are the resources we need to help such people.
And here, Kritika, it's very important for people to understand that when you talk about mental health, don't just isolate mental health as only related to the mind. The mind does affect the body, and it's the body that suffers. And then because the body suffers, the mind has to suffer.
Correct.
So this interchange of the mind and body causing harm to each other in a condition that is so vicious that it becomes so much helpless for a person to, survive through that he has to yell out for help. And that's exactly what they don't do.
Correct.
And there are instances, as far as I know, that even corporate world, that people are going through such kind of stress that they even have tendency of feeling like to commit suicide. And many people will go through that situation. How as a psychologist you see that as a challenge?
So another research says that 1 in every 10 employees actually have this thought at least once a month. The feeling of not wanting to live. One, it could either just be in the cognitive state, like just in the thought process. But the other one could actually manifest into reality. You know, so many suicide cases have been reported recently. So, one of the major reasons is this, that when they cried out for help, did they actually receive the help they deserve? Or are we just ignoring them because we don't have enough time from our own self?
So, what can an organization do in that case? Because the organization is built
Yeah.
to make profit. Right? They want people to come here and work so that they could make some money out of it.
Yes.
At the end, every employee comes here to work. And while the organization looks at trying to find solutions to make sure that the employee gets a good environment to work, at the other side, they're looking at even making the employee work at its maximum, right, capacity. So what can a manager, for example, what can a manager do to make sure that his subordinates or his team has good mental health? What can they do?
I would like to give here my example. I'm a mother of a special child. And I have discussed this with my manager as well, because I did have certain concerns when I joined with regards to the work schedule. Now, there might be emergencies. So, in case of those emergencies, I need to be there with my daughter. So, what do I do? So, in DXN, when I've been working here, one thing what I particularly liked was the flexi work schedule which was given to me. So, be it with regards to the time that I come in and the time that I go, it is the same as everyone else. But yes, there was special consideration with regards to the special child case, that in case there's an emergency, you can go. Now, here also, I spoke up. I did talk about an issue I had. If I'm going to keep quiet about it and not discuss it, is everybody going to get to know? No.
Did you not have that fear? What if they reject? And because isn't that the need of a job more important than somebody trying to find a solution for you?
So I had a choice, and I made a choice to speak up about it.
Okay.
Because being a psychologist, I do believe in one thing, that if you're facing some issue which is going out of hands, you need to talk to someone about it. And here it was about my need, yes, and yes, it was about my special child. So I chose to speak about it. So I'm glad I made that choice. And here I would like to say that when it comes to flexi work schedules, actually there is another research I would like to quote here. When they checked this along with productivity, as compared to be it your previous organization, can you imagine the productivity in each employee actually increased by 13%?
Oh, really?
Yes.
You mean to say that giving the employee the freedom to choose when he wants to work? You mean not binding them to the 8-hour shift?
Yeah.
It actually was more productive?
It was.
Oh, really?
And also over there, they actually worked on project basis. So for example, rather than having an everyday deadline or a quarterly deadline, they worked on project basis. So when it comes to projects, you know that this is a period when I have to just, give my best and then go ahead. So that actually helped them to reduce the stress.
I would agree on that, because see, if somebody is asked to run at a particular speed of around 30 or 40 kilometers an hour, and he has to do that for a long period of time, that's very tiring. Yes. But if he has to sprint for some time, relax for some time, sprint for some time, he actually would be performing to his best.
Correct.
Right. So I totally agree. Maybe that's one of the tips that maybe organizations who are looking out to better the mental health situation of their employees can look at flexi timings as one of the options. But because it definitely improves productivity, and that's what the organization is also looking at. On the other side, it also gives the employees that freedom, which most of the jobs, you feel that you're and bonded labor, kind of a thing, the 8 to 5. But as soon as you have the time freedom, you experience that freedom, and the joy itself is a stress buster.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of creativity that comes up. And you mentioned freedom, so I would like to say that autonomy is one thing what managers found in various researches, that when they gave autonomy to their employee or their subordinates, they actually performed better. And interestingly, there was a 20% reduction in the stress level.
Wow.
So that's so interesting, because here we are talking about the effects that good things a manager can do or the company can do for employees, and in turn they are also, it's like a win-win situation.
Yeah, this is okay on the point of view from a company side. When it's looking at all the employees in general, the company can contribute to helping them manage the stress. But what about in a corporate world? The stress is even of competition,
Yes.
And the competitive spirit, or you can say the challenges that people go through, that itself is a stress.
Yes.
How does one handle that kind of a stress?
So I think here we need to be very realistic while we are setting goals. Now, I'll give you a very vague example. When there is an animal race, suppose horses are all running in the race, I can understand. If a donkey is competing with a horse, then I don't think I understand that. What I'm trying to say is, let's compete with ourselves first, and if you really want to compete with someone else, let the person have the same skill set.
What if the donkey moves faster than the horse? The horse is under stress. And what if the horse is actually not realizing that, the donkey is not somebody he has to compete, That's what he need to realize. But the fact is, what I mean to say is, jokes apart, is there is competitive stress. And the organizations, they do demand a lot from you. They expect you to over-deliver, not just deliver, right? So that expectation, to meet that expectation, is the stress that we all carry. So we'll be back. We'll just take, Kritika, a short break, and we'll be back again and continue a discussion to try to understand how and what means can we address these, really, really challenging situations of the modern times, especially in terms of the corporate wellness. See you again.